In the previous video, I did the brain, right, as part of the central nervous system. So in this video, I'm going to discuss the spinal cord. The spinal cord is one of the components of the central nervous system, like I've shown you guys in the very first video that I did about the nervous system. Okay, so now we're going to focus in what we call the reflex action. So before I can talk about reflex action, there are some few terminologies that we have to know regarding this action. Okay, so first of all, we have to know about all the neurons that are involved in this reflex action, and then these nerves are found in the spinal cord. Okay, so and also in the brain, but then now we're going to focus about the neurons that are found in the spinal cord. Okay, and then after that we're going to discuss a few parts of the spinal cord. Okay, so now I'm going to discuss neurons. So what are neurons? Neurons are nerve cells. These are cells. These are nerve cells which transmit impulses. So impulses are messages, but then you are not required to use the message. Not you are not allowed to use the word message, because of now this is a neurological language, so we have to use specific terms. So the impulses are the messages. Messages. Okay. Yeah. So the neurons are the nerve cells, or are the cells that transmit impulses. Okay. So we want to know how these neurons are able to transmit impulses, and we want to know the name of these. The names of these neurons. Okay. So the first neuron is the sensory neuron. We have the sensory neuron. The sensory neuron is also known as the afferent neuron. Also known as the afferent neuron. So what is the function of the sensory neuron or the afferent neuron? So this neuron, it receives the stimulus and converts it into an electrical impulse. After that, transmit the impulse to the central nervous system. So it means that the sensory neurons are the neurons that are found in the skin. They are found in the skin, in the receptors. We're going to talk about the receptors also. So these neurons are found there, and then they receive the stimulus. What is the stimulus? The stimulus, it is anything that makes the body to respond. Meaning light, it makes your body to respond, right? It makes your eyes to respond. Sound makes your ears to respond. So the sound also falls under the stimulus. So it means that the neurons, they receive those stimulus, these sensory neurons. After that, they convert the light that you see into a form that is going to be able to be recognized by your body. So that form, we call it an impulse. So after the stimulus is converted into an impulse, the impulse now, because of it is in a correct form, it is able to be transmitted to the central nervous system, meaning it can be transmitted to the brain or the spinal cord because of this sensory neuron. So it means that in our skins now we have many sensory neurons that senses whatever is going on in the external environment. After that, then the impulse is sent to our central nervous system, the brain or the spinal cord, to react. Okay, so we have another neuron known as the interneuron. Also known as connector neuron. interneuron or the interneuron. As you can see, it means that it connects something. So the interneuron, it connects sensory neuron and the other neuron we're going to discuss called the motor neuron through what we call synaptic gaps. So these gaps are found between neurons. So it means that the neurons are not directly connected to each other. There are gaps in between those neurons. But then we'll learn more about them when we talk about the reflex action. And then now we have this neuron, the other one, the motor neuron. We have the motor neuron. Also known as the efferent neuron. Also known as the efferent neuron. So this one, it sends or transmit the impulse to the effector organ. So what is an effector organ? Effector organ is any organ in the body that is going to make it possible for you to respond to the stimulus. We call it an effector organ. It can be a muscle, it can be a gland or anything. So it can be a muscle, can be a gland, like I've said, or maybe the hand, any part of your body that is going to respond to an action, call it an effector organ. Okay, so these are three types of neurons that we have to know for your level, and then their functions. And then now we're going to try to find out how they fit in the spinal cord and then the reflex action. Okay, so before I can discuss the reflex action, I'm going to introduce other parts of the spinal cord. Okay, in the spinal cord we have what we call the dorsal root ganglion, the dorsal root ganglion, and then we also have the ventral root ganglion. So these two parts, the dorsal root, dorsal in biology, dorsal means at the top, ventral means below. Okay, these are Latin terms. So the dorsal root ganglion and the ventral root ganglion, you see how they fit in the spinal cord. Okay, and then you also have to know what is a receptor and then what is an effector. So effector, I've already explained it. So the receptor, it is any structure that is going to receive a stimulus, and then after that it converts the stimulus into an impulse. That is a receptor. It means that your skin is your receptor. It receives the impulse. It means that your eyes are receptors. They receive the stimulus of light. Your ears are receptive because of this. They receive what? The sound. Okay? Then the effector, I said, is any structure that's going to respond to the action. So we're going to see how these terms fit in what we call the reflex action. Okay, so now let us try to break the reflex action. action is a quick, autonomic or automatic response to a stimulus. So it means that this response, it happens automatically without you thinking about it. So it is a quick, autonomic or automatic response to a stimulus. So what are the importances of this action? This action occurs to protect your body from damage or from danger. So I'm going to use maybe one example of reflex action that takes place in our daily lives. Okay, so let's say now you touch a very hot plate in the stove. We have a stove with its plate, and then now you touch that plate without knowing that it was hot. Maybe you come from the school, you come back from the school, you're just hungry, and then now you want to eat, and then the pots are on top of the stove, and the other plate doesn't have a pot on top, and then when you want to balance with that plate so that you can fetch the pot from the other plate in the stove, and then now your body quickly removes your hand from the stove. You didn't know that the stove was hot, but then when you touched it, you were able to remove your hand faster from that hot plate. So that thing we call it a reflex action, because of you didn't think about it, because of you didn't know that the plate was hot. So it means that your body was able to remove the hand from the body without you thinking about it. So somehow your body is able to make things possible without consulting with you first. It just happened. So that actually we call it a reflex action. So now we want to know how this stimulus of heat in the stove was able to travel throughout the whole hand until it reached your spinal cord and your brain. Then you were able to know that, hey, I almost bent my hand after the hand was removed. You do not think firstly do not think that I'm bending while you're still holding the plate. No, it doesn't work like that. You remove the hand first, after that you start experiencing pain. The pain comes afterward because of now the brain becomes involved. So in the reflex action, the brain is not involved at all. It becomes involved after you remove your hand. So the only part of the central nervous system that is involved in the reflex action, it is your spinal cord. So it means that the spinal cord is the one that helps you to remove the hand from that hot stove. So the spinal cord know that, and B, only the spinal cord is involved during a reflex action. Okay, so now let's see how that was possible. So the first thing that happened started here in your hand. So the receptors of the hand received the stimulus of heat in the stove. After that, the sensory neuron inside these receptors, so it means that the receptor in the skin, they have sensory neurons. Then the sensory neuron inside these receptors converted this stimulus of heat into a nerve impulse. So now longer heat. The heat became converted into what we call an impulse, a form in which the message can be transmitted in the human body. Okay? After that, the impulse was transmitted to the spinal cord. Through the dorsal root ganglion. So it means that the dorsal root ganglion, it is the very first part of the spinal cord in which the impulse enters in the spinal cord. Through the dorsal root ganglion of the spinal cord. Now the impulse, it is inside the spinal cord. What happens? Inside the spinal cord, the sensory neuron makes a synaptic contact, with the interneuron. So it means that inside the spinal cord we have the interneuron. The interneuron is found inside the spinal cord. What is the synaptic contact? It means that the sensory neuron combined with the interneuron, but then it opens a gap in between. Okay? After that, the interneuron makes a synaptic contact with the motor neuron. Okay, so the interneuron makes synaptic contact with the motor neuron. After that, it means now the impulse is now in the motor neuron. Then the motor neuron, it transmits the impulse to the effector organ now. Then the motor neuron transmits the impulse the effector organ. So in our case, what is the effector organ? The effector organ is going to be the muscles of the head. So it means that the muscles of the head, they receive the impulse that, hey, you are bending there. Okay? So if now the muscles are receiving that message or that impulse, now they are able to tell your hand to be removed from the hot plate. So after that, the muscles or the effector organs of the head removes the hand from plate of the stove. Okay, and now you are free from being bent by that hot plate. After that, the impulse, once your hand is removed from the hot plate, another impulses are sent to the brain. Then in the brain, the impulse, they tell the brain that, hey, this person was burning, so now make him or her aware that he was burning. And then the brain then starts making you to be aware of the pain. Now start expressing the pain where you have burned after the hand was removed. Okay, so it means that it was very important for the hand to be removed first without you thinking about it. And after that, later on, you experience pain because of now the brain becomes involved in that particular action. Okay, so I hope you guys understood this part of the reflex action. So now I want to quickly discuss the synaptic contact. What do we mean by the synaptic contact? So it means that maybe let's say we have this neuron, it is a neuron, and then we have another neuron here, which is the interneuron, and then another neuron here, which is the motor neuron. It means that these neurons are not directly connected to each other. It means that in between we have these gaps known as synaptic gap. These gaps are known as synaptic gaps. Okay, so these synaptic gaps makes it possible for the neurons to communicate with each other. So it means that in order for this neuron to communicate with this one, there are going to be some things that are going to be secreted here at the end of these neurons. It means that these neurons are going to secrete some fluids, if you ever call them, known as the neurotransmitters. So the neurotransmitters are the ones that are responsible for making it possible for the neurons to be able to communicate with each other. So the neurotransmitters are going to travel from this neuron and then become attached to this other neuron. After that, the impulse travels again. And then here at the end of this neuron, another neurotransmitters become secreted, and then they travel to this other one until this neuron, the motor neuron, now tell the effector organ, the muscles, now to cause response to. Okay, I hope you guys understand that. We have many different types of neurotransmitters, so I'm not going to discuss those things with you. If you want to know a lot about them, text me privately. I'm going to teach the whole neuroscience behind this thing. Okay guys, let me not confuse you too much. I'll see you guys in the next upcoming videos. But then those videos are not going to be based in life sciences. We're going to shoot maybe mathematics or physical sciences. I'll decide. But then I'm going to see you guys in the next video. Do not forget to subscribe and like. Yeah, thank you.